So this is Squash Alchemy. I'm Lisa Camilleri. My guest today is Danielle Letourneau from Calgary, Canada. Danielle, you turned pro in 2014 and you have represented Canada twice in your junior career at the World Junior Team Championships and twice so far in your pro career at the World Team Championships. You have been in a total of 8 PSA finals so far, and you have won 5 of those finals. Congratulations on your achievements so far, and welcome, and thank you for joining me here at Squash Alchemy.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I think we'll kick it off with, how did you play squash? How old were you when you started playing, and why squash?
So I started playing squash when I was about 6 years old. My parents actually met playing squash at our club, and even my grandparents on my mom's side played squash. So it's kind of a whole family affair. So they signed me up, and I think with my brother's kind of leadership and how he got really into squash and seeing where it took him, it kind of inspired me to stick with it.
So at the age of 10, you played your first junior event. How did you go on that event? And how many, did you sort of start playing a lot more junior tournaments after that?
Yeah, like I started playing quite a few local ones at that point, and I mean that was my first kind of large event, and I got crushed. Um, but I think the only thing that got me through to doing better was my serve. That's the one thing I could do, and luckily with old scoring, it helped quite a bit. But um, I didn't really see much improvement until after that event and kind of realizing what it took to actually
Mm-hmm.
improve.
Yeah, sure. Were you getting any private coaching from very young age?
No, I'd say more group coaching, junior program, and I started getting private coaching probably when I was 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw that you turned pro when you were sort of around 21. Um, was that a decision that you knew sort of earlier on that you wanted to turn pro, and why at that age?
Well, I always wanted to go pro at some point, but at that point I was at university and there were a couple of events in Toronto right before the school year started. So I wanted to just give it a go and just kind of test myself, see where I was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I tried to fit in 1 or 2 tournaments just around my school schedule and realized, I really had to give it a shot once I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a cool way to still feel involved.
Okay. How different did your training then change? Obviously, what were you doing before that? Like, how many days a week were you hitting? And then once you made the decision to turn pro, how dramatically did it change?
I felt it changed a lot more once I left school because I was so used to training in a team environment, and we might do more drilling for maybe like 2 hours a day and then fitness on the side, it was great. But I found that once I finished university, I got a bit more specific in my training, really trying to break down what I needed to work on, a bit more match play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've always had my fitness trainer from Calgary, but when I was at school, I couldn't work with him as much.
Okay.
So once I got back to Calgary, I really emphasized the fitness aspect.
Yeah, right. So just going through, some of your tournaments, you played a little bit in Australia. I saw you came across to Australia. How was that? Obviously, being such a long way from home for you.
Australia, both times I went did not go the way I'd had hoped.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. It was when there was still qualifying events, and the first time I went, I got through my 2 qualifying matches. You drew the first seed. I played Milu.
Uh-huh.
I ended up losing. Next week, I went to the same tournament, got through my qualifying, drew the seed, played Milu again. It was a tough pill to swallow the first, because it was my first 2 like big international tournaments that I had traveled to on PSA, and kind of losing first round was, I think in hindsight, a good thing for me, because you come on thinking, okay, I can do really well, and then realizing there's still so much to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And getting that tournament experience It was just unfortunate that the next time I went back to Australia, I had the exact same thing happen. I went through qualifying and drew the same person 2 weeks in a row. But happens.
So you then won your first tournament, which was a 5K in 2016. So only 2 years after you've pretty much turned pro. How was that feeling after winning your first event?
Oh, I was very ecstatic, and it was such an odd event, and the fact that there was a massive snowstorm in the middle of the tournament where you couldn't even leave your billet's house. The club was shut down. All of our matches were kind of adjusted, and I played Millie, who I had played her so many times at university, and I had never won.
Okay.
I was down to love, managed to come back and win, so I felt like that kind of got me through. And then in the final, like, I remember being so on edge, but luckily it was her first final too, and so there was so much anxiety and feistiness on the court. Still a clean match, but I think at the end of it, I think I won like 11-9 in the fifth or something. It was such a relief, but I had all these leftover emotions and feeling so excited that I was just, it was the best feeling.
Yeah. I was just looking at your tournament. So you won a 5K, then a 10K, then you won a 12K, and then you finished off in 2020 winning two 20Ks. So amazing, in such a short time, you've just gone from strength to strength. How's that process been?
It was difficult, but so rewarding. I felt that I had had so many tough matches at a lot of the bigger tournaments for a while and wasn't really, I was getting close, but not breaking through. And after a while, you kind of get in your own way and feel like you haven't really won and you forget how to win. So going to like a World Series and then going playing a 10, gain that confidence back, it kind of helped me realize like I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was half of that, the battle is, it doesn't matter who you're playing, you still have to go in and just kind of focus on your own process instead of thinking about the result, thinking about the points, thinking about the prize money, or wanting to prove something. It's just going and just playing the game.
Mm-hmm. Is there any sort of tips that you could give with how you kind of maintained that mentally?
Yeah, so I started writing in a journal about a year and a half ago, and being a bit more objective about what my goals are on a day-to-day basis, not just with tournaments. And even when I go solo, it'll be, I'm going to hit this many targets in this much time, and then try and increase that and just gain that consistency or working on footwork. And so I felt that having a bit more structure and purpose to my day just kind of carried on to my mindset in a tournament. So instead of getting distracted by exterior thoughts, or I was like able to go back to the same thought process that I had been practicing over that period of time. And like, okay, if this goes wrong, what do I do? It's this.
So yeah, good
Also,
advice.
looking more at the losses and seeing what really went wrong and what was the reason behind it. Like for me, I found out in Chicago, I had a tournament that didn't go well, but I looked back on it before the two events that I won and realized I had spent so much extra energy being around people, being at the courts, trying to talk to people, going places, and I realized it actually helps me when I isolate myself a bit more. But having to kind of recognize that and take a step back, it was having to look at the losses instead of being like, okay, I know when I do this warm up, I do really well, but maybe it's what are the exterior things that really negatively affect me.
I saw that you spent a few months in Egypt training recently. What training did you do and how did you improve on your mindset?
I felt that it was a lot of the intensity around their training. I played a lot more matches, condition games. And so the nice thing is whenever I was on court, it didn't matter if I was better or worse than whoever I was playing. There was always a very clear purpose to the training. And then you're playing against so many people with different styles. You might have coaches watching your practice matches. And so the intensity is just naturally higher than if I just call up a friend and be like, hey, let's go play a game.
Sure.
You're there and you don't want to, everyone shows up with that same intention.
Mm-hmm.
and same purpose. So you just feel it kind of mimicked a tournament setting a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that really helped, and just the amount of training, it was exhausting. So learning how to think and still show up and have high quality hits and learn the most out of each one
Mm.
when you're tired, kind of learning how to push through that, find solutions. It made a huge difference.
Mm. So you would you recommend any other players coming through to go to Egypt to do some training?
Yeah, I definitely would. I'd say it's not easy with the intensity, and you're in such a different culture, different food, different way of training, but at the same time I found it so rewarding going through that process.
Mm.
And I think it's definitely worthwhile to do. You're going to get exposure to so many different players, levels. It'll all be good training, but it's just also difficult if because you're still outside your comfort zone.
Mm.
So I think going in and kind of accepting that, you just have to make the most of it and embrace it. But if you don't and you feel really out of place, it could be really tough.
Yeah, sure. The tour has been suspended. So having that momentum kind of come to a halt, how's that been? And how have you sort of been sort of mentally staying together during this time?
It's definitely been up and down emotionally. Some days it's like, okay, it's all right. I'm going to pick things up. I'm going to keep going. I can work on what I'm doing here. But then there's other days where you're like, oh, am I going to lose what I learned? And you have all this doubt. But I've been just trying to go day by day and just work on my fitness and, watching squash on TV or just still trying to think about it a little bit each day. So you're not going to lose everything. And I'm trying to convince myself that it's not all gone, but it's definitely been tough because I was really excited for the end of season, trying to keep building on what I had done. But I'm just trying to realize that it will come. I'll keep building. It's just pushed back a little bit.
Yeah, through all the experiences and knowledge that you've already gained through your training, through your junior career, through to your pro career, what advice would you give to a junior wanting to play? I mean, not even for them to turn pro, just for a junior to take squash on board as their main sport and sort of take it a little bit serious?
I'd say one of the things that has helped me the most throughout my whole career, even when I was a junior, was calling everyone and asking for a hit. When I was a junior, maybe like 12, I'd ask 45-year-old man to hit. I'll have to dial and actually call, no texting at the time, but call and say, hey, do you want to hit with me? And it might feel a bit uncomfortable, but being able to reach out, you'll always find people want to help. You'll meet a lot of people. You'll get exposure to so many different styles, so many different games, and you build a lot of relationships that way that will help not just in squash but in life. And
Mm-hmm.
I found having that skill from before, being able to just reach out to whoever, helped me. Even going to Egypt, and even though I might get a little nervous trying to message Nuran Gohar, be like, hey, will you please hit with me? And you know just kind of getting over that fear. And the worst thing anyone can say is no,
Yeah.
but you'll get a lot more yeses. You get a lot more opportunities just by reaching out to the squash community.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds like, there's some great advice that you've given. One that I've taken out of this interview is you've put yourself out of your comfort zone a lot. And, whether it's through, like you said, just picking up the phone and asking people, or putting yourself in a different country to train. So I think, just going off your stats, like I said, your growth has been so much in such a short time. And I don't know, I mean, would that be mostly due to you putting yourself out of your comfort zone constantly?
I think it's a mix of putting myself outside my comfort zone, but at the same time building a really strong team around me so that I feel secure even when I'm doing something like that. And in Calgary, I have such an amazing team. I have like my sports psychologist, I have my fitness trainer, I have my coach, I have my family, friends. But then when I went to Egypt, I made a little bit of a community there, and I could lean on and have as my support team. So I felt that it's a mix. You need to have comfort while being outside the comfort.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for all your advice. Some great tips there. One of keeping a journal, making sure you're journaling constantly, putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and having a great team that surrounds you to be able to get you up training and encouraging you each day. So thanks for all your knowledge and all the tips there, Danielle.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.